A study recently came out that said there were over 2 million Canadians volunteering, over 2 billion hours. Well, how can that not impact a community, our community as a nation? And when I think about how each of those individuals get up each day and do something, it's great. And without a doubt, people have said that volunteering is what makes meaning in their life, beyond perhaps their family or other things such as components of work, but that it's fulfilling. It can be strategic if you're trying to move something forward in your community. I've heard the word magical and challenging. And people who volunteer always say how fulfilling it is and how they get so much more out of the act of volunteering than whatever it is that they're actually doing, and that they learn so much from the people who they're either working with as volunteers or to whom they're delivering services. It's very much a win-win situation. Volunteers tend to not always see the value of what they're doing, and they tend to dismiss it, and that's wrong, because what they do is so important, and many services in the community would not be possible without volunteers. And in fact, of the 161,000 charitable organizations in Canada, many of them are run entirely by volunteers, and if they weren't in the community would be so much less vibrant, would not have the depth and dimension. So volunteers are so important. When volunteers come with work experience and life experience, they're seen as gems in the rough. And it's challenging to figure out how to use those resources and use those skills, and agencies are becoming better skilled at that. And I think that as people are looking at retirement in a different way and thinking about volunteering, volunteer agencies and agencies that utilize volunteers need to also begin to reformat position descriptions so that they can accommodate people's schedules and can accommodate people's desire to contribute, but using skills they have. And I think the challenge is for volunteers, perhaps who've been quite senior in an organization, to adapt to a world where they may not in fact be the boss at the moment, but still have many skills to bring. So it's an adaptation on both sides, and I think in the last 5 to 10 years that has been happening and will continue to happen as we see people 55 and up not working full-time and beginning to look at a new kind of semi-retirement and retirement. What we find is that once you volunteer, you tend to volunteer at more than one agency, and more time is committed. And you have to be careful about that. You can't be everything to everybody, the same way you couldn't be when you were being paid to do a job. You don't want to be in that same sort of running like the gerbil in the race, in that wheel in the cage. You don't want to be in that position as a volunteer. So you have to be very careful. And you also have to learn to say no.